the player's perspective on baseball in the COVID era. Minnesota Twins pitcher Randy Dobnak joins us next on Beat the Shift. Welcome to another episode of the Beat the Shift podcast presented by Fangraphs. My name is Ariel Cohen, and with me as always, Reuven Guy. How are you, Reuven?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, and we've got a special guest tonight on the show. He has a career earned run average of 3.12. He's got a ground ball rate of 60%, which is enormous. He's accumulated 1.1 career WAR, according to Baseball Reference. And from my statistical standpoint, he posted a 36% WPDI in 2019. What's that? We'll explain that later. But I want to introduce Minnesota Twins pitcher Randy Dobnak. How are you, Randy?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing fantastic. Thanks
great.
so much. How's your New Year started?
Not too shabby. I've thrown a few bullpens, so get back in the swing of things a little bit, get ready for spring training.
Right. I wanted to ask you, how does this offseason compare to other off seasons prior? Because obviously we had the shortened 2020 season. We have a somewhat uncertain start to 2021. Are you doing anything differently?
I'm kind of doing what I did during the whole quarantine thing. As far as, kind of just typical throwing bullpens and stuff. I mean, the facilities that I use haven't been locked down, so I've been able to go ahead and use those for throwing bullpens. And then the local high school field, I just go over and throw with the kid that catches me. So we just kind of go over in the mornings and whatnot. It's a little cold, but it gets the job done. But as far as lifting and all that goes, I've been able to use the gym and stuff. So nothing really crazy is different compared to previous off seasons, other than the whole wear a mask thing, kind of distance yourselves and all that stuff.
Well, last year you actually only had divisional play. You didn't actually face the entire league. Was it easier to prepare for games last year in the shortened season? And is it going to make it a little bit more difficult this coming season?
It was a little strange. I mean, I think it's a little bit beneficial sometimes, and sometimes it's not. Facing the same team over and over again more than usual. I think benefits the hitter more than the pitcher. I think there's a point where I can't remember if I faced the team 3 times in a row or it was just twice in a row, but we had one guy, I think Odorizzi, faced the Royals 3 times in a row, and facing the same lineup, 3 starts in a row, they kind of get used to you and whatnot. But going forward, I think for me personally, I treat each start or each game as a separate entity. So the days before leading up to it, if I'm going to be starting, I'll do my research and I'll see what what guys are hot hitting, like what are they hitting, what are they hitting well, what are they not hitting well, location wise and all that. And kind of just come up with a game plan and attack them with that.
Yeah, last year, Jacob deGrom in New York, he had a streak of 4 straight starts against the Marlins. There was a period of almost a month where all he faced was Marlins. So anything goes these years with COVID. It's crazy.
He's pretty nasty, so I can't remember how he did, but I think he did all right.
He did okay, yeah. So, from the player's perspective, as we have you on, minor leagues have been there was no minor leagues in 2020. How do you think that it's going to affect how prospects are coming up and how they're going to perform this year and also in their development for the future?
I think it's really strange just to think about it. Whenever I signed in 2017, everything was normal. As far as all that goes, I don't really know how those players are going to be like managing what they've been doing, because for some of them they won't have played since, I guess, spring training of last year. Before that, you go all the way back to 2019 end of the season. So it'll almost be like almost a year and a half since they've played competitive baseball, rather than throwing bullpens or throwing to live hitters. But you can do all that as much as you want, but comparing that to like a live game, with fans and all that, it's just so much different.
Do you think there's going to be like an innings limit? I mean, for you personally, you pitched 128 innings in 2008 overall, 160 63 in 2019 and only 46 innings last year. So do you think there's going to be an innings limit, especially if pitchers want to try to jump to 100 to 150 to 175 innings next year?
I think that I guess that'll probably vary team to team, but I mean, as far as I go, I prepare the way that every season should be. I go in expecting myself to be able to go out there and perform every fifth day. I don't want to take any chances. Kind of go into spring training, thinking, oh, I'll get to throw some bullpens down here and there, but I go into spring training over prepared. I always have done that just because I know some guys come in under prepared and they end up getting hurt or things that shouldn't be happening happen. But I don't really know if I'll have a say in innings limit. I guess that it's all up to the analytics and the coaching staff and obviously the pitchers, and how they feel. But I guess it just depends on how you prepare yourself.
And will it depend also, like, I'm guessing you're assuming last year was your quote-unquote rookie season. Will rookies be treated any different, or players coming off injury? Like your teammate, Jake Odorizzi, he had an injury, and he missed some time last year. So is that going to affect him or you going forward also?
I don't think so. I mean, I can't speak personally for other people, but I know that, Odorizzi's arm was totally fine. It was just, the one time he got a line drive back at him, so he was out for I forget how long, but that just it was out of his control. And the other thing was a blister. It's just things that are out of his control. And for some guys, if they have arm problems, it's a bigger story rather than just having things that are out of your control hurt you.
Right. So you mentioned analytics might be involved, and one thing that we've noticed, especially since we play a lot of fantasy baseball here, that the number of innings per start per pitcher has trended downward. I mean, we saw the Tampa Bay Rays. Look at the World Series. Blake Snell was pitching a gem, and the Rays held him to 5 innings, and they had their playbook, and the playbook said take him out after 5. Do you think we're going to see more of that going forward, or was that just something that occurred in the short season that teams are going to try to say, no, we're going to find our pitchers who are going to really give us length next year?
I think last season might have been like a little bit of a test run for some things, but as far as we keep going, we keep going and going with analytics, it's getting more important, from pitch to pitch, batter to batter. At first, I wasn't really a big fan of it, because I had that kind of old school mentality. I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna throw the baseball and I'm gonna get outs and help the team win. But nowadays they have all that spin rate and stuff. So I've been trying to use that to my advantage as much as I can. But there's people that are above me that know a lot more about that stuff than I do. I just know I go out there and throw it, and they tell me if it's good or not.
So, do the Twins have would you think, a different philosophy? I don't want to step on any toes, but do you think the Twins operate a little bit similar to the Rays? Or are they a little bit more aggressive when it comes to this?
Um,
You don't have
I
to give
think
away any secrets or anything like that. It's just,
no, I mean, I think they're pretty analytical, but if a guy's rolling, they're not gonna take him out. I mean, I can't really speak for I can't really speak for my manager and stuff like that, but every team's different, and they just want to do what's best for the team and what's best to go out there and win.
Right. So, we have a big media environment today, social media and stuff, and fantasy baseball is huge. Do you pay any attention to fantasy baseball at all? I know some football players, they know, oh, my fantasy stats were great this week. Do you pay any attention to that or others on your team?
I don't. I used to play that way back in the day, like in high school and college and stuff, and I always thought fantasy baseball was a little way too much for me. Baseball's just a super, it's a long grind. Football's a little different. There's
Right.
16 or 17 weeks, and you can set your lineup, once a week. And I still play fantasy football, but as far as baseball goes, I mean, I have some friends that play it, and they'll kind of fill me in with, how I did each start. I'm like, I don't really care for it, but it's kind of, if I have a good start, it's like, oh, you helped me win. Cool.
Right.
Congrats. But yeah, back when I used to play, I thought it was just because it's like you gotta check your lineup every single day, and sometimes people are late scratches and stuff like that. But I don't really know if many guys pay attention to this stuff as much as you probably think. But I
Right.
think football's a little different.
You actually did help one of our home leagues win because we picked you up very early and you were you're one of our more consistent pitchers, and so we'd like to thank you for that. But to move into a slightly different topic, you see a lot of players now on social media. You see Trevor Bauer during his free agency. You see your former teammate Trevor May. Marcus Stroman is on there. Blake Snell is on there. Does that have an impact on the players? Do you think? Because actually, Trevor May said that going on and being on social media actually helped him a little bit. Do you think that affects players like yourself?
I mean, everybody's different. I mean, it's just kind of based on people's personalities, I guess. But for me, I mean, I like interacting with the fans, good or bad. Every time I have a bad start, I'll go there and people will be cussing me out and giving me all kinds of bad names in my DMs and stuff like that. But I mean, it's all part of it. We're playing in the highest stage of baseball, and people are gonna get mad, people are gonna be happy, and you kind of just got people just deal with it differently. But like I said, with Trevor May and stuff like that, like everybody has their own little brand, I guess you can say, and it's just kind of the way that we go about it. I like I said, I like interacting with the fans and kind of just trying to show them that we're real people, we're not just like these walking robots and stuff.
Well, speaking of the fans, do you think that any players are going to be playing differently once the fans come back? I mean, it must have been very odd playing with no fans. I know you used to play in an independent league where the crowds weren't as big as the major leagues, but do you think that players will be playing different when the fans come back, and specifically like starters and relievers?
I like playing in front. I think it's really weird playing without fans. A lot of players feed off that energy that the fans bring, and it's just awesome. Just to have them there backing you. If you're a hitter, if you like hit a home run, everybody's cheering for you. If you're a pitcher, you get out of a big situation. Um, just like all that energy coming out of the crowd and stuff like that. And we play for the fans, and we like to entertain them and go out there and have fun doing it. So as far as that goes, I don't really know if it'll change the way some guys play. But having a lot of people in the stands creates some of that adrenaline for some guys, and crazy things happen.
Do you think it affects closers? Because I know that there are some closers that thrive on the energy in terms of the crowd coming in. We're a tight game situation, high leverage index, and everything. Do you think it might affect certain type of roles on teams?
I think maybe relievers sometimes they come into the big situations, the sticky spots where they need to like have some more adrenaline pumping, throw a little bit harder, and kind of just feed off the energy that the fans bring. So if I had to guess, maybe the relievers or maybe even being the closer.
Right. So, how do you think a pitching coach affects you? We know that Jeremy Hefner now with the Mets are there. What impact have you seen on pitching coaches for you personally? And maybe tell us about the pitching coach that affected you most. Maybe you had a high school coach or a college coach or so. Who was the person that affected you the most?
Um, I think pitching coaches have a lot to do with a lot of development of guys. For me, I never really had a pitching coach besides like my dad growing up. He kind of just showed me like his thing was when we were growing up, we would play and catch. He's like, just try different grips on the ball and throw it and see what happens with it. Because different different grips, cause different movement and stuff like that. And that was 15 plus years ago. And come to think of it, that's kind of how the way it is. So if I had to say anybody, it's probably him. He's the one kind of taught me how to play the game, and I never really had like personal trainers or any stuff like that, pitching coaches growing up. But yeah, Jeremy did a great job last year. This year we had Pete Mackey. He does a great job, kind of just giving instant feedback in the bullpens and when we're warming up, if we're just starting a bullpen, on our off day or something like that. And if we have questions, that they're there to help us answer them, and they have like all the analytical numbers and stuff to back it up. If we're asking questions about spin rate or location wise and where we need to throw to certain guys and all that stuff.
So I do a lot of statistics over at Fangraphs, and I had an article last year talking about a new statistic that I wrote called WPDI, Weighted Plate Discipline Index, to give us an idea of the breakdown of is pitchers getting strikes in the zone, is it getting contact, are they getting swings? Basically, if you think about it, if I express every single possible outcome in terms of three things: swung on, made contact in and out of the zones. There's actually 6 outcomes. You can be in the zone, swung on, no contact, out of the zone, so on and so forth. And if you take a look at the percentage of pitches that a pitcher throws that are generating contact,